Okay. Oh, no eyebrows, and I need to cut my hair. But anyway, so this is the recap VOD. Oh, I just realized I have a stream on. I was like, what is that noise? No one heard that. Hi, I am here. All attention's on this vlog. Anyway, so, this is the recap vlog thingy for Horrorhound, and that's really what I have to say about it. So, I was like, oh, let's go to Horrorhound. It's in Ohio. It's pretty close. We can do a road trip. I heard it's, like pretty big. They've got really big name stars, all that stuff. I was like, let's do it. And my besties were like, sure, we'll deal with going to the Midwest with you to check this out, because it was really like we were considering, maybe in the future doing a table there and stuff. That's obviously what I do nowadays. It's sell things at conventions and then, go, never mind, I'll never do that ever again. Or I go, ooh, let's keep doing that one, So, I guess I'll just kind of timeline it. So, we left here, drove. I think Google Maps says it takes about like 9.5 to 10 hours to get to Ohio. Obviously, that's non-stop if you never have to go to the bathroom or gas up or something. Or take naps, So it ended up being about more like 11 to 12 hours, which is fine. I mean, we drove to Chicago, so this is nothing. Anyway, so that was fine. Our hotel was fine, to a degree. But so anyway, yeah, so on Friday, before we got to the con, because the convention starts later in the day, kind of like Monsterpalooza does, I was like, hey, let's go to the museum. Let's, be a bunch of art nerds. So we went to the museum. That was pretty cool. It's free to go in, which I was very surprised. I was like reaching in my bag to grab my, work ID to be like, I could get my buddy tonight for free. And I went in, and the freaking lady's like, hi, how are you doing? It's free, just walk on in. And I was like, what? She's like, yeah, if you want to see the Georgia O'Keeffe, one, that's the only thing we accept money for. And I was like, what? And I was just like, cool, do we get, like a ticket? I'm used to, if you go to the Met or anything, you gotta have a ticket, you gotta have a sticker, you gotta have a thing, and like all the New York Museum stuff. She's like, no, just walk on in, have a great day. And I was like, okay, you too, bitch. Yeah, so that was cool. I saw a lot of art. There was one piece of art that had us all screaming, and it was just I don't even want to get into that. This is about, I was going to say this is about positive stuff, but I'm talking about this con, and it's not really that positive. Anyway, so, after that, we went to the con, and holy shit. So, we saw the line. It was, like, wrapped around, like, whatever queue. It was, like, fucking 5 rows, like, very long, like, deep for the con. And we're like, holy shit, if this is Friday, I can't imagine what Saturday, Sunday is going to be like. And I'm just like losing my mind. On one hand, a convention with great foot traffic is very, very good. On the other hand, the foot traffic may not get to you. So an example is I did Monster Mania in Oaks, PA in, what was that, like November or something. And that was awful. It wasn't the only awful one for me. Everyone around me was like, hey, I'm not getting any sales, or like I'm making, like, seemed like everyone I was talking to was making at least like a quarter what they usually make. And as someone who barely makes, and is only just now, after like a decade of doing this, is just now finally breaking even, so you can imagine how less I was making. And that one, again, great foot traffic, but because there was guests like Robert Englund and Corey Taylor of freaking Slipknot, people were in line for those all day, and then by the time they came to us, they're like, well, sorry, we just spent like $3 bajillion on these 2 celebs, and I don't know about this stuff. I don't know if I could have the monies to buy it. It's just awful. But that's also like, so for Horrorhound, the dealer rooms were very like, it was very like uncomfortably packed. And I saw that they had posted that the convention center is under construction to expand, and I feel like they should have just, like, I get it. So that means the next year, they said that they're going to stay there because then the next year will be bigger, blah, 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 more space, more space. Great. Why not this year choose a larger venue? I'm just saying. There's so many other, like, maybe they have a deal with the place and they're able to, like, book it on, like, on much, on lesser money than other places, which I get. I help organize a convention as well, nonprofit. So I get it, you know, like sometimes you stick with the place because you know the people you're talking to. You know, again, you get like very discounted compared to other people if you like sign a contract for however many years. I get it. But I just feel like because it was under construction and it just was like very uncomfortable. And Friday was, like I said, it was insanely packed. And just going through like the aisles, it just felt like Saturday of Comic-Con. You know what I mean? It was just like that one, before they expanded Comic-Con, like, I mean, it's not so bad now because they expanded the Javits Center, but back then, when it didn't have that expansion, and you got to that one aisle, and all of y'all who've ever been to New York Comic-Con, you know what aisle I'm talking about, because that's the aisle that you don't want to have your booth at, because it's like people just don't even want to buy shit, because you're just like, you know, it's like a fucking you know, it's like a rush hour train. It's like fucking train in Japan during rush hour. You know, you're just packed. And then they also had like celebrities, kind of like not at the end, which usually with horror conventions and stuff like that, it's like vendors, and then it's like cool celebs are here. And this one, they had celebs in different rooms, which I understand, because you don't want like all the celebs in one room. But it wasn't like in the dealer's room. Well, there's two separate dealer's room. They weren't like, hey, like the second. Okay, let me just catch up. So the first one, it was like, here is an aisle for vendors. Then it's a celeb aisle. Then it's vendor, which I thought was kind of dumb. You should have just shoved that all to the side. And again, like it was like both sides were of that aisle were celebs. I feel like they should have, I don't know, like not have done both sides, because it was really packed to try to walk through to see who was there. Because usually what cons do is when there are celebs, they don't do like what normal things is like your table's here and another table's across kind of stuff. For celeb ones, it's usually like it's wrapped around the edge and there's nothing else, so people have space to line up and have photo ops and all that stuff. Then again, what do I know about any of that stuff? You know, it's not like I've been going to cons and, again, helping volunteering for a con and, you know, being this opinionated bitch for this many years. So anyway, so that was kind of like, a little uncomfortable. Then you go to the secondary room, which had like a lot of the tattoo artists and stuff, which is great. But me as an artist, if I was working, especially, I got sauce on my shirt anyway, fat, there was one of the tattoo booths I was like right by the door. I don't know, part of me just felt like at any moment someone could knock into them. Again, that's just me. But anyway, so it was like, okay, tattoo stuff, couple more vendors. Oh, Jonah Ray was there. I didn't realize how tall he was. I didn't have anything for him to sign, and I always feel bad to just be like, I want one of those photos. I don't know, that's just me. I like, you know. Anyway, I didn't realize how tall he was, but then it was like the guys from Anthrax and, you know, all that stuff. So then that was kind of wrapped around, and a little bit of vendor, or like that one had a little bit more space. Like they kind of thought that one a little through. But yeah, in the main room, then there was like another weird doorway, and I thought it would be like a third vendor room. No, you go in there, not a third vendor room, it was just 3 tables, you know? And I went in, I was like, oh God. And knowing my luck, I would have gotten stuck, like in a spot like that, because I just never luck out with shit like that. Like, most of the time, I like, when you sign up for tables and they allow you to kind of like pick and choose, most of the time, like, I usually just say fuck it, luck of the draw, flip a coin kind of stuff. And there are times where I've been like, can I be closer to a bathroom? Like something, I don't know, like, could I be closer to a specific door? Very rarely do I put that in, again, because I usually just go, hey, give me wherever, which seems to be like, well, give you whatever means a back corner that no one knows of, no signage, you're fucked. Anyway, so we went into that little part, and it was like, it just felt awkward, like you walked in, it's just 3 tables, and you're like, oh, this sucks. And there was like this lady there, and she was like, barely clothed, which fine, you know, like, you know, sometimes when I do tables, I slut it up too, just to kind of make sales, I get it. And she had like a bowl of candy, and she's like handing it out to actual children, because they were actually children, because they were like a little bit taller than table height, and then she shouts, yeah, grab it out of my snatch! What? What? Ma'am. You know, not to get all political, but then, like, you know, legislators worry about queer people like me, you know, being around children. But this bitch is out here screaming, grab it out of my snatch. But anyway, bitch. So there's that. And then, so then after that, this is still Friday, we walk through again, and I go back into the tattoo room, back where Jonah Ray and the guys from Anthrax are, and there was like another doorway, and I thought it was just like a wraparound thing, you know, like another, like it wasn't the part of the convention. I thought it was just like, here's a throughway, like a hallway thing, just for flow of traffic. So I said, okay, let's see where this goes. Walk, and then it's like, oh, this is the main part of the we're in the front entrance of the convention center. Oh, because we went through the side. That was also something else. When we got there, we said, hey, here's our QR code. We have weekend passes. Where do we go? They're like, all the way down there. So we entered through like a side door, which also, again, made it packed, even though they were trying to meter people in by having us go through their merch table. Hello. You know, and I feel like this convention, like, they spent money on, like, those special, like, plastic wristbands kind of things, and, like, drink stirrers, and I'm like, I feel like there's money you could have spent on that wasn't that, you know. Again, what do I know? Anyway, so we go there, we're like, oh, here's the, you know, thing, the actual thing, and there's people going, and then it's like, oh, these are the screening rooms, downstairs is where Bruce Campbell is. I ended up foregoing trying to meet Bruce Campbell because he had like a virtual queue, and the virtual queue is pretty much just like you go and you grab a number, but then you weren't even guaranteed that you would get in. Like, so you got your number to be like, hey, on this number I'll be guaranteed in line, but then you still wouldn't be guaranteed to have gone up to him to get your shit signed. And I was like, you know what? I don't want to go through that. I got a lot of things happening this weekend, you know, and I most likely will be the only time, and I really do feel like this will be the only time purposely going to Ohio instead of driving through it to probably go to Chicago again. So I was like, you know what, it's fine. I can probably meet Bruce Campbell and other things. There's tons of horror conventions that happen in Jersey and New York. Like, so then I just keep walking and walking and walking. And there's like another room, and what's his name? Doug Bradley, you know, Pinhead is there. Cobra Kai people are there, Devin Sawa, OG, Buffy the Vampire Slayer's there, the Terrifier people, the singer of Ice Nine Kills, and then Matthew Lillard and Skeet Ulrich's tables were there. They weren't there because it's Friday. And then there was a little section where I was like, that's Giancarlo Esposito. They didn't have his like banner up, but they had posted that Giancarlo was going to show up early. Well, he was showing up early because he was planned on Saturday, Sunday, but he was going to show up like sometime after 7 for Friday, and I was like, all right, let's get that one out of the way, because he's like one of like the main people I wanted to meet. I bought like a green utility blade from Home Depot. I splashed it with some paint so it looked like blood, made a fake blade, had him sign it. He jokingly was like, what is this? He's like, this is not even my brand. And I was like, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. That's what Home Depot had. And he's like, that's fine. You know, he's making the joke. He's like, that's fine. He's like, this is great. And I'm like, because it's like, dude, you had Greg Nicotero like do makeup on you. Me splashing the little bits of blood and you thinking it's amazing. Like, thank you. I need that, please. Can you write me a recommendation letter for something? You know, anyway. So got him to, you know, sign that, and then I went to go get my picture taken. Oh, and by the time, because I went to the museum and all that stuff, I don't know what was up with the charging thing with my camera, this camera, but when I turned on my camera to do the photo thing, it was flashing low battery, and I was like, ah! And like, as I had it on, I gave it to Masami to hold on to. He's digging through his, like, you know, paint marker thing to like figure out like other colors, and like I normally wouldn't be, I'd be like, whatever, man, just like take your time. I'm spending time with Giancarlo Esposito. But I was also like, my camera's gonna die. I mean, granted, we all have cell phones, we can take it on the cell phone, but you know, so I'm just there like. Anyway, we end up getting the picture. It was great. It startled Masami because it's like, we're like, okay, 1, 2, 3, and he just drops his face, Gus Fring face. Love it. I love that he does that. I love that without even asking, he just knows exactly what face. And in the picture, it just looks like, I just like met like, you know, my uncle, and he was just not happy to see me. And I was like, hey! And he's like, get this kid away from me. So, again, very nice and sweet man. I love Giancarlo Esposito. We are the same height. I feel like that's awesome. So then Saturday came, and we're like, okay, we're like preparing for it to be like insane because, well, if yesterday, Friday was insane, then what the fuck Saturday is gonna be? We get there, and it was normal. Like, yeah, there was a lot of people, and it was kind of crowded in some spots, but it was nowhere near the insanity of what it was the day before. And my guess was that because it was like a few days or even like a week before the convention, they had mentioned that, like, hey, Saturday, Sunday, and weekend, like, pre-order tickets are all sold out. And the only thing that was left to pre-order was Friday. So I'm guessing it was a lot of people, like FOMO or something, was like, oh, I want to check this out. And they all just, like, freaking just showed up on Friday. Because most of the time when you have a weekend pass, most of the time that really means people are going to go Saturday, Sunday. You know what I mean? Not everyone's going to go every day, even if you do, different time, but like Friday you're there, So on Saturday things were a lot more manageable. The vendor rooms, the dealer rooms, you swiftly go by them and they were totally fine, not as crazy. I had Paul wear his Candyman costume, which was great, got a lot of eyes on it. Obviously not a lot of people really dress up as Candyman often. I think there was one dude we saw at Dragon Con who was also Candyman. Not at the same time as when Paul was, but that's still, like, that's two guys dressed as, Tony Todd Candyman, not the new one, but you know what I mean? Like, that's two dudes. Yeah, so Saturday was fine, and then I pretty much just spent the entire day, like, waiting to get in line for Matthew Lillard, and then being in line for Matthew Lillard. So when I got there, the guy's like, hey, the line's capped, and I was like, ah, shit. He's like, come back in an hour. So we go, we walk. So initially, that was the first place we got to. And then I was like, alright, let's walk around the con floor. Then I got back, they're like, hey, it's capped again. And I was like, son of a bitch. So then I stood off to the side. And I'm standing there, and I'm like, kind of looking at the line. I'm kind of looking around the room, kind of stuff, making sure I'm not in anyone's way so we don't get, like, kicked out for, like, whatever. Then I noticed, I'm like, hey, the line got shorter, I'm gonna go up. I went up to the guy, I was like, hey, and he goes, oh, the line's capped again. And I'm like, what? As he's saying that, there's, like, people going in line, and I'm like, I was like, okay, I was like, okay. Then a different, not a volunteer, but a security guy said, he goes, hey, give me like 30 minutes, I'll try to get you on. And I'm like, okay. I didn't believe him. I never believe people. Because I pretty much was like watching him the entire time in the room. I was like, okay, he's going up to people, making sure they're not in the way. And I'm like, and then I'd watch the security guy, then I'd watch the line, I'd watch, blah, blah, blah. So initially I was going to go and then also meet Skeet Ulrich, who was obviously right next to it. But both of their lines obviously being capped and all that stuff. I was like, let me just focus on the one person, like the person I want more, which is Matthew. So I was like, alright, oh, also, another person I wanted to meet, it's the actor who played Jason for Freddy vs. Jason, but he had to back out last minute because of something. So that sucked. So I was like, the upside not getting every autograph is that I saved a lot of money just meeting two people, I didn't save time, but I saved a lot of money. So finally at one point, I'm starting to look down and I'm just kind of standing there like, well, this is, like I'm just kind of like, feeling like shit. I'm just like kind of like, oh, we drove all the way to Ohio, and I'm really, like, upset and disappointed. Like, I'm just like, I'm going through, like, a lot of emotions, but, then all of a sudden, completely different security guy from the other dude I talked to, and he just stands and he goes, line for Matthew Lillard is now open, and I, like, and I fucking was like, ah! So I, like, practically ran, I hear my friends behind me go, oh shit, because they realize, like, I just, frickin' sped off. And I get there, and the guy goes, alright, just everyone stand behind me, and he's, like, getting us all, like, in the queue, and I'm like, Masami gets behind me, because Paul was in costume, he had the business cards, he's like, hey, I'm gonna walk around and try to get your name out, and I was like, thanks, buddy. So he's over there. So we were in line for 2 hours. So probably a good, like, half an hour to an hour in. Paul comes by, he's like, you good? And we're like, yes, we're good. there were some people, because the line was so long, they would leave to go to the bathroom and come back. And I was like, I'm holding it. I mean, I didn't have to pee. And, anyway, yeah, so we were in line and all that stuff. And as we were getting, like, closer and closer, I was like, oh, look, I actually see Matthew Lillard. And, Masami's never seen a movie with Matthew Lillard in it, like, at all. Like, she kind of knows him as Shaggy. And so I was kind of like, yeah, there's 13 Ghosts, and he was in Hackers, and SLC Punk. I was explaining to her that she should watch SLC Punk, because it is a very good movie. And I'm like, doing all this, and she's kind of like, alright, yeah, fucking hell. Being friends with me, I'm like, that one actor who was like the stunt double of this. And I'm like, oh my god, I'm gonna meet this person, Anyway, so we finally get up there to meet him. Oh, let me dial it back. So about 8 people in front of me. It was a very young woman, and she's crying. She's like red face, like, and Matthew like hugs her, and I'm like, that's so nice of him. She's like, and I mean, I would only be like that if I met, like, Guillermo del Toro, you know what I mean? I mean, when I saw Shape of Water, and he then did a Q&A with Michael Shannon and Octavia Spencer and fucking Doug Jones and stuff, like, when they were in the same room as me, I was like, I was that. I was just like, oh, and then I met Doug Jones, and I was like, because he, like, told me how great I looked, and he held my hand with his cold, skinny hands, I'd be a mess if I met Guillermo del Toro. I'd just be like, yeah, I'd be an embarrassment. Like, I would be an embarrassment, and my friends know that, anyway, so I was like, alright, that's great, we all want to meet people, and they, what's the word, they mean different things to us. There was another word I can't think of. But anyway, so I get it. I'm not going to shit on the person. Anyway, I get up there, and I suddenly just didn't know what to say to him, because I'm in line for 2 hours, and I pretty much had like finally thing. It's like you're waiting for a table at a restaurant, and then you're like, oh, thank God. Like, you're not even, like, excited for food anymore until you get to until you sit down. So I went up to him, I just, like, handed him my VHS of Scream, of course, widescreen edition, and then I was just like, how are you doing? Like, I went into, like, customer service mode. I'm like, how you doing? He's like, I'm doing great. How you've been? He's like, I've had a great day. How have you been? And I was like, I've been in line all day. And he goes, oh, okay. And then he's like, blah, blah. He looks down. I'm wearing my purple Chucks. And he's like, oh, I love your shoes. And I'm like, thank you. Oh, no. Immediately, fangirl. Immediately, it's 1996 again. Immediately, I'm just like, oh, my God. This, like, white twink boy. Like, what's wrong with me, And then I was like, cool, okay, we're done signing. I was like, cool, picture time. And I'm going into the, the pose where it's like, okay, we do the Christian side hug thing. And then I notice he goes into, like, friend, like, kind of hug. And I was like, okay, bitch, you want to hug like that? Mama's gonna want to hug it. I was like, let me hug your little tiny man self. Very tall, but, skinny. And I'm a big bitch. So I was like, woo! Everyone else in line, and I'm like, yes, I got, like, a lovely hug from Matthew Lillard, Jesus, And that hug lasted a while, because then Masami was like, and I'm like, big smile on my face, because hello, And then he's like, have a great day, da-da-da. And then he goes, oh my God, I love your hair. And then, of course, I was all done up like a whore because, hello, I'm meeting Matthew Lillard. Of course, I'm gonna, femme it up for a sec. And he was like, oh, and, I had my blue-green eyebrows to match my hair. And he goes, oh my God, I love your hair. I love the dedication with the eyebrows. I'm like, thank you, I do it myself. Like, and he's tall, so I'm just like, hi, complete another, like, fangirl, just, Anyway, so then I was like, bye. And then, like, security just kind of like, all right, please leave. I mean, not that I wasn't, but I was like, thank you, holding my VHS all excited, and, we get out of the room. Paul's, like, sitting there, because he's, like, done. He gave out all the cards. He's just like, I'm just candy, man, And I go up to him, I was like, I got a hug, blah, 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 blah. I'm just, like, way too excited. And then afterwards, so we went back to the room, changed, ate dinner. After dinner, went back, changed. I mean, not me, Jay. Paul changed. And then we did the costume contest. Now, Paul didn't win. He didn't even place, and that's fine. I'm not upset by it. I just wanted to like try out costume contest stuff because people keep saying like you need to do costume contest, but I just like it makes me feel a certain type of way, and then like because I'm such like a perfectionist, it's like if I don't win, it will bother me. But like because this whole weekend was just so weird anyway, I really didn't even care that we didn't win. I was just like whatever. But Paul was bothered because one of the judges looking at I didn't know this because he had to go like up to a table by himself. The judge was like kind of giving critiques about the coat and saying like, oh, it should be weathered more, and it's like, well, if you, I'm sorry, like, you know, actually, but like, you know, if you look at you know, Candyman's coat, it's not like tarnished or weathered. It's actually a very nice coat, kind of stuff. And that kind of bothered Paul. I feel like that judge's critique bothered him, and then the fact that we didn't place at all, and again, he was a little bit more annoyed with it. I get it because probably he's the one wearing it and all that stuff. You know, I know I'm the one who made it, but I don't know. I was just kind of like, whatever. That night, I said, hey guys, how about we just don't do Sunday? You know, let's just not do Sunday. So instead, we went to the zoo, and I'm gonna have a video of the zoo. But yeah, we went to the zoo instead, and then we had dinner at like a wine restaurant, and we drank a lot. And I rarely ever drink, but we were just like, let's do a tasting, and let's have this, and just, I was red. I was as red as that girl who was crying at Matthew Lillard, you know? Gotta love that Asian glow. Yeah, and then that was it, and then we drove back home, and then I had work the next day because I decided to work right after, you know, 12-hour road trip because I'm insane and I also need money. But anyway, so yeah, that was the vlog recap of Horrorhound. My camera is telling me it's low battery and I'm still talking. But yeah, I don't really see myself going back to Horrorhound, in all honesty, unless there's like some guest that like, you know, unless it's like someday we're like, oh my god, this person never does a con, and it's like the only time this person does a con. Again, if Guillermo del Toro shows up and he goes, I will never ever do a con again, but this one, you know, like, I really don't see myself going there. Plus, like, I make a lot of jokes about the Midwest and Ohio, and it's like, yep, it's exactly what I joke about. Not really my Jilly Jam. I am definitely a New Yorker through and through. Sorry. You know what I mean? But anyway, yeah, so Horrorhound, I have a market tomorrow, you know, so I'm a busy hoe. Anyway, goodbye.